Hello mga kabibig! Welcome back sa ating bagong YouTube channel. Ito ang pinakamaingay na YouTuber sa balat ng YouTube. Ako si Kabibig, maglabag-labag na ta with evidence. Nako, ito ang latest news mga kabibig. PRRD, uuwi na daw di umano. May latest update at nagpa-interview si ICC Legal Counsel ni Pangulong Duterte na si Nicolas Kauffman. May binulgar siyang sekreto na wiwindang sa'yo. Ito ha, sabi ni Nicolas Kauffman, ICC case, the real prosecutor is in Manila, sitting in his palace. Hala, sino? Sino ang nakaupo sa palasyo? Ito pa, I think that the real prosecutor in this case of former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte's ICC case is actually in Manila, sitting in his palace. He is the person who threw President Duterte over here to The Hague. He is the person who used the office of the prosecutor as a tool in his political campaign. And it won't work. Ginamit daw ang Office of the Prosecutor para sa kanyang political campaign. Pero hindi nag-work out. Talo, nga, goodbye. Hala, pwedeng yung taong gustong magpa-reconciliation, yung taong gusto na mag-reshuffling or courtesy resignation yung mga kabinete? Yun ba ang pinariringgan ni Nicolas Kauffman? Kasi, of course, Nicolas Kauffman is working in the ICC. Makakausap niya ang mga judges, posible, and they're sharing their thoughts, their opinion, and also mga confidential na mga nalalaman nila. Di ba, kabibig? So, heto, si attorney Nicolas Kauffman na talagang binulgar niya ang nakakawindang na sikreto na nasa palasyo lang pala ang mastermind. Nako, Senator Amy Marcos, oh. Nasa palasyo na, nakaupo daw sa palasyo.
That's not my point. Anyway, let's go. Good morning, good morning. Yeah. Former President Duterte is in good spirits, as usual. He's always happy to see his defense team. And we're working on his case.
So, Attorney Kauffman, the ICC is in trouble after the U.S. placed sanction on Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan, which also faces a serious personal allegation. His email and bank account are reported black. So, our question is, number one, what happens now the case against former President Duterte? And number two, if the Chief Prosecutor can't do his job, who will handle the case? Number three, and how should the Philippine government deal with this, knowing the ICC is being questioned and the US is against it?
Well, let's start with the last question. I think that the real prosecutor in this case is actually in Manila, sitting in his palace. He's the person who threw President Duterte over here to The Hague. He's the person who used the office of the prosecutor as a tool in his political campaign, and it won't work. Now, regarding the sanctions, the US sanctions, these were imposed. I don't think it has anything to do with the Philippines situation. As you may be aware, President Trump is pretty annoyed with the ICC because of the investigation into what so-called Palestine situation. And he has said, quite frankly, that anyone who targets the United States, who targets United States allies, and for all intents and purposes, that is Israel, President, Prime Minister Netanyahu, they will be subject to sanctions. Now, at the present moment in time, these sanctions are only affecting one person in particular. That's the Chief Prosecutor, Karim Khan, who has now suspended himself because of the allegations of sexual misconduct. I'm not going to go into those allegations. It's not my role to pass judgment. But he is being investigated by the United Nations, and the United Nations Office of Internal Oversight Services will come back with their decision on the matter in due course. And then whatever happens to Chief Prosecutor Khan will happen. But the person who is handling the case at the moment is the Deputy Prosecutor, that's Mame Niang, and he has overall control of the case, and he's the person who's now signing off on documents in President Duterte's case. However, on an operational basis and on a day-to-day basis, the person interacting with the defense is an experienced American prosecutor. I'm not going to mention his name, but he's a professional prosecutor. We just hope that the deputy prosecutor himself will take the time to learn the case and also interact with the defense, because just as I am accustomed to interacting with the former chief prosecutor, I expect that the deputy prosecutor who has now assumed that role will interact with me.
With respect to the application or the motion that you filed pertaining to the disqualification of 2 of the 3 judges, we are awaiting the result of that. Do you have insights or further already information with respect to the result from the plenary session?
Well, let's get this straight. I'm defense counsel. I don't sit in chambers. I'm not a party or a fly on the wall in the discussions of the judges themselves. The judges, as you will be aware from the decision which was issued, have been required, I'm talking about the 2 judges who the defense requested to disqualify, have been required to make their observations by a certain date, and that was yesterday. They would have made their observations. I'm not sure whether those observations are disclosed to defense counsel at this moment in time. And they will be disclosed in due course once the plenary have sat and once the presidency renders its decision, and we will know what they decide. Let me make one thing clear. We invited the judges to disqualify themselves, or to excuse themselves, right, as a matter of courtesy and out of respect. They said that we shouldn't do that. Well, we shouldn't do that, but we acted out of politeness and courtesy. It's not our position to criticize judges. Judges are independent, they have a degree of integrity, that's presumed integrity, and we're the last people to question their integrity.
Correct.
However, this whole issue with respect to jurisdiction has already been litigated extensively, and those 2 judges were party to that decision. That's what the request for disqualification is all about.
Oh, yun pala.
Attorney, it is also a known fact that the former president is now the mayor of City Davao. Are you already processing everything with respect to his oath-taking?
I'm not going to talk about oath-taking or anything, because that's a legal question which is being handled by his Filipino lawyers.
Oh.
Oh yeah, he's been there for 73 days already, held inside the ICC. Do you think that we're looking at years or hopefully as soon as the possible time that he'll be released?
As far as I'm concerned, it's always as soon as possible. As I've told you many times before, there are certain preconditions which have to be met before an individual can be released at the ICC. It's not like one of your run-of-the-mill criminal cases where you can post bail and just get out and go home. No, in order for someone to be released here, there has to be a willing state party capable of receiving him onto its territory. And that's what we're looking at. It's a long process. It's something which requires a certain degree of diplomacy. And let me just come back once again to this whole issue of the elections. Okay, people miss the point. The former president won a landslide victory.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, that's a finger in the eye to the people who threw him over here.
Correct.
That's the real point of the elections. It was a protest vote.
Correct, protest vote.
Attorney, with respect to the prosecution's request or motions, twice they were granted the presentation of witnesses.
Ang sabi ni Attorney Kauffman, let me just come back once again to this whole issue of the elections. People missed the point. The former president won a landslide victory. So my concern is that it's a finger in the eye to the people who throw him over here. That's the real point of the elections. It was a protest vote. So kung naintindihan ni Bangag. Pero parang naramdaman na ni Bangag eh. Kaya nga gusto yung makipag-reconciliation daw. Ang daming kadramahan na Bangag ngayon, no? Parang naka-board ang mga drama nila. Pero hindi kinagat ng mga tao. Diba? Ito na.
charges will be extended. What is the implication of that with relation to the longevity of the trial?
Well, perhaps if we feel that we've been disclosed statements and witnesses' evidence at a late stage, then it could formulate a request on my part for the postponement of the confirmation hearing. But I'm not asking to postpone a confirmation hearing at the present moment in time at all. In fact, I'm quite happy for it to be brought forward, and I wish it would be.
Yeah. Because currently, attorney, there has been a report that one of the senator of the Philippines found out that there were ICC investigators already in the Philippines right now trying to ask retired policeman or policeman to sign a, what do you call that? An affidavit.
Alam, may mga ICC sa Pilipinas, pati prosecutor yung ICC na nandiyan sa Pilipinas. Totoo kaya to?
To strengthen their case here in the ICC. Is this also in line with the particular request that they have to delay the prosecution of the witnesses?
I don't know what's going on in the office of the prosecutor. I've heard these allegations. I'm certainly not going to comment on the evidence in a media interview. I'm not allowed to do that. I do not propose to do that. But I've certainly heard of these allegations, and they will be processed by the defense team and used in due course.
Should the government of the Philippines, the president himself, request for the ICC that our former president be brought back to the Philippines, can that be facilitated?
Yes.
Thank you. Attorney, is there something that you want to address the Filipino community all over the world with respect to what's happening, what we see as an illegal detention and a curtailment of his freedom as a Filipino citizen?
I want to tell the Filipino community around the world who support the president to keep your spirits up, to support him, but to support him lawfully, with all respect for due process, the judges and the victims, who I've said time and time again have an important role to play in this case, and they have a right to have their voices heard. So respect that. Has nothing to do with his innocence. We will fight for that, and we will hopefully bring him home soon.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day. God bless you, sir.
So yun ka, Bibig. Yun ang nangyari. Diba?
Thank you, sir. Pleasure to be able to talk to you again. Live ba yan? What stood out from this na ang pinaka bottom line po is that again and again he made mention that the president is in good spirits and that he's okay, that they are that he's going to fight for the president until mauwi po siya sa Pilipinas. Pero what stood out from this interview is that should the government of the Philippines through the president himself file a request for the former president and now mayor of Davao City be brought back to the Philippines, that can be facilitated and that can be done in an instant.
Ooh.
Mga kababayan, also the result of the election which just concluded is a reflection of the voice of not only thousands, but we are talking of a landslide victory for the former president to be voted as mayor of Davao. Huwag po tayong mawalan ng pag-asa. Huwag po tayong mawalan o mahinaan ng loob sa mga nangyayari, although it is a reality that he's been held in detention for for already 73 days, and that's a lot telling of the speed of the justice and the speed of the proceedings taking place dito sa ICC. Napaka-importante po na ipagdasal natin si Pangulong Duterte at para po magbigyan po siya ng how do you say that? Strengthening his mind to go through this whole proceedings, mga kababayan. At irespeto po natin ang judicial proceedings, irespeto po natin ang opinion ng mga judges, irespeto po natin ang mga nangyayari ngayon. Kasi this actually involves a lot of elements. Kung i-review niyo po ang interview, malalaman po na actually this can be, how do I say it, concluded immediately if the President of the Philippines, President Bongbong Marcos, will ask that he'll be brought back to the Philippines. It can be facilitated, and you should do this, Mr. President. As a matter of courtesy to a former president, a Filipino citizen, who was illegally or viewed by a lot of people, taken or brought to the custody of ICC. Yun po ang update ngayon, sir.
Hala, mga kabibig. Yun pala ang update. Naku, gagawin kaya yun ni Marcos? Susulat siya sa ICC na, pabalikin nyo si Duterte dito. Mabilis. Naku, pero sila naman ang group effort yun, di ba? Sa Senate hearing, group effort, sinabi ni Remulla. Hala, pwede nating i-connect yan sa sinasabi ni Pbbm na reconciliation. Baka ito yung gustong deal na magagawa ni BBM. Sige, pwede konsulatan ng ICC. Pwedeng diktahan ko ang ICC na ibalik si Duterte dito. Pero, Sara, luluhod ka sa harapan ko. Maging sunod-sunuran kayo sa harapan ko. Sara, mag-resign ka. Hala, posibleng ganun ka, bibig, no? Do you think gagawin niya ni Bongbong Marcos na susulat o mag-request sa ICC na ibalik si Duterte sa Pilipinas? Posible kaya yun or hindi yun, kabibig? No? Hindi ko nakikita sa aking bulang kristal na gagawin yon ni Bongbong Marcos. So sa 2028, dapat manalo si Inday Sara. Nako, 3 taon pa, kaya ni Pangulong Duterte maghintay ng 3 taon. Kaya, kabibig, with our spirit, ating panalangin na maging maganda lang ang health ni Pangulong Duterte at gabayan siya ng Panginoon. Pero we don't know. Miracles can happen, mga kabibig. Yun lang po, mga kabibig, ang ating latest libak-libak for the day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video para sa mga latest trending news na ating pag-usapan. Bye everyone. See you next time.